everyone, and welcome to this Amber and BGA webinar on how top institutions are avoiding burnout and managing events and campus-wide calendars for increased student engagement and success in association with Ready Education. My name is Melissa Oliver-Jolly. I am an Amber membership and account manager at the Association of MBAs, and I'm looking forward to an hour of really interesting insight. And shortly, I will hand over to our speaker, Maria Clark, Client Success Manager from Ready Education, to start the conversation. Before I do, just a bit of housekeeping. So we want the session to be as interactive as possible. So if you do have any questions, if you could just add them to the question box, which you should see at the bottom of your screen. And we will pause a few times throughout the webinar to take questions. And we should also have a bit of time at the end of the webinar. If you miss anything, please don't worry, because the recording and slides will be available in post-event comms and on the Amber and BGA website within a week or so. So without further ado, I will now hand over to Maria.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for that introduction. My name is Maria Clark, and I'm a Client Success Manager at Ready Education, and I'm thrilled to be here with you today to talk about these really important topics. Like it was said before, please feel free to throw questions in the Q&A box at any time. I'm happy to pause. I want to make this as conversational as possible, but I also want to be sure to share the important information we have going on in the slides as well. So let's get into it. Like I said earlier, I'm with Ready Education, and at Ready Education, we strive to be the platform that students use every day to be successful. Today, we're going to explore how top institutions are avoiding burnout and managing events and campus-wide calendars, and I wanted to quickly run through what we're going to chat about. We'll discuss what we know about the current landscape of higher education, involvement, and staff mentality. I'll walk you through some current real-life examples about how our partners are working through today's roadblocks. And I'll also share a little bit about how Ready Education solutions help institutions on a daily basis. And like I said before, I'm going to save some time at the end for questions if any pop up throughout. I'd like to give you a little bit of background about myself before we dive in. I work closely with a lot of educational institutions across the world to help them enhance student engagement through innovative technology solutions. Prior to working at Ready Education, I myself worked as a higher education administrator for about 7 years. And throughout both journeys of my career, my goal has always been to ensure student success. A lot of what my passion lies in is improving the student experience and helping administrators and staff really create awesome experiences for their students while creating seamless and frictionless experiences for themselves. It's important that, I know you all know this as well, that we ensure that every student feels connected and supported throughout their journey. And there's a lot of reasons why, and we're going to talk a lot about that today. So I'd like to start off by discussing what we actually know about student involvement and how critical it is for student success. So we're going to break this down into 4 really key pieces here. So the importance of student involvement. This is brought up, and I'm sure many of you already know this, but research has shown that involvement on campus or during any sort of higher education learning is really important and significantly boosts students' sense of belonging, retention, and academic success. So we know those students that are really actively involved are really more likely to persist and graduate and really enjoy their experience on campus. A lot of studies highlight the really profound impact that engagement has on student college experiences. And students who are actively involved in campus activities are more likely to stay enrolled, perform better academically, and feel that stronger sense of community. We'll talk a little bit about student involvement and how those top institutions are managing that and getting that increased involvement on campus in later slides. We also know that data plays a huge, crucial role in making informed decisions on universities. It's not only important for staff in everyday life to have that data to know what outcomes they're looking to improve or what specific day-to-day instructions that they're looking to stand by, but we also know that leaders of universities use data to forecast trends, to allocate resources, and help staff improve student outcomes. By leveraging data, universities can identify what's working and where improvements are needed so that they can ensure that they're always moving forward. Data is so, so crucial, and we'll talk more about that later. One thing that I know that we don't have to share with you, but we'll talk about it anyway, is that a lot of staff are really burnt out right now. We know that from really important reports that only 61% of current higher education professionals plan on continuing their roles in higher ed, and only about 57% would recommend the field to others, which is a lot lower than what it's been in the past. It really highlights, these numbers really highlight the significant issue of burnout and the urgent need for better support, for better systems, for better tools to help alleviate the stress and pressure that's put on staff administrators today. Lastly, we're going to talk a lot about how technology is continuing to increasingly play a vital role in fostering this engagement, helping combat staff burnout, and helping with that data to help those drive those decisions. According to a recent report, 72% of professionals expect to focus more on leveraging technology, especially in today's world, to enhance not only in-person but online engagement. And this really underscores the necessity of integrating technology into our strategies for student engagement. Our goal at Ready Education, and I assume yours too, is to create really a seamless experience and seamless access to resources and engagement opportunities. Technology really allows us to do that, and it helps create one spot to directly put information and resources in the hands of students. So over the next couple slides, I'm going to break down each of these key points and share real life examples of how our partners are using these examples to really play through how they're increasing student engagement on their campuses. Pull up the Q&A box here just while I'm waiting. All right. So the first thing we'll talk about is involvement and how critical it is to student success. But I think the question that we have to answer is, how do we increase that involvement? How do we get that? And there are a few ways that our partners are finding success in doing that. One way is highlighted at the Columbia University School of Professional Studies. And what they do is use clear and consistent communication through our platform. Because as their students, faculty, and staff begin to rely on information that comes from the platform in the form of a newsletter, they begin to look forward to and look out for the messaging that comes from the platform to really rely on knowing what is coming down the line, events that week, that day, that month, so that they can continue to stay involved. The Columbia SPS really utilizes their newsletter, and they've created a lot of buy-in by creating dynamic and interactive information on their newsletter. And you'll see a few examples of this on the slide here. Students have begun to really rely on this information, and their open rates and click rates have become astronomical because of their consistency and clarity in their communication. You'll see here on the newsletter that each of the newsletters, while it contains engagement opportunities, the imaging and the information shifts so that it becomes more interactive and students aren't just kind of scrolling down to the bottom to read that information. In addition to communicating what's happening on campus, we need to really create that space to be able to pull in that information from the platform itself. So within the newsletter, you'll be able to directly click on a link to register for an event or to add your name to a listserv or to sign up for more information. And Columbia SPS uses that information to help track that data to drive long-term success. Especially, and we'll talk about this a little bit more, tracking attendance. It's crucial for administrators, but also for student organizations and student organization leaders. It can be used for a lot more forecasting and information to pull out of the platform so that students can make big decisions about their budget, programming, and much more that we'll talk about a little bit later. Another example that I wanted to be sure to showcase is how our partner, Denison University, utilizes their homepage as a virtual bulletin board. I think we're all used to the old school way of tacking up posters on campus and having the paper posters all over campus that are outdated or have events past. And one way that Denison University really helps increase engagement and involvement is by constantly changing out what their homepage looks like in order to reflect a virtual bulletin board. This is a live view of what their page looks like, and I know the graphic is a little quick, but if you can see here, it showcases a lot of different information, whether it's how to vote for student leadership positions, information from their vice president of student affairs, what events are happening this week, and all of this information changes on a regular basis to increase that engagement on that homepage. This helps bridge their academic and social experience and helps admins meet students where they are, which is online. And this is available on their web portal or on their mobile device. Swapping topics now to talk a little bit how data is so important, which I know we've mentioned time and time again. But we think that our partners utilize our data in really unique and creative ways. And I want to bring up an example from the UCS Mann School of Pharmacy. Excuse me. They've created a space where administrators can monitor attendance for co-curricular activity and gather feedback so that they can make real life, real time changes to how they're interacting with their students. So, this School of Pharmacy really relies on our platform to track their co curricular experience, and it allows them to well, first, their co-curricular experience is an accreditation requirement. So this data is key and pivotal to their success of their program, but it allows them to really begin to map what their events and activities and learning outcomes are in real time. So each time they attend a co-curricular event, they receive that feedback, as you'll see on the screen here, and they evaluate in real time what it looks like. So they complete that data journey from what to so what to now what. So what is happening? What's the platform? What is the co-curricular activity? So what? Why is it important that we're gathering that feedback? And now what? What changes do we have to make as administrators to increase that engagement? They evaluate the data, like I said, they make real-time process changes, and this gives access to this level of data to not only the administrators, but to the leaders to show them why their buy-in on technology is so important. It creates a seamless access to resources and experiences, and it allows them to say even like very easy decisions. So, um, did this program or co-curricular activity, did it work at this day and time? If not, why? And how can they track that to make changes for the future? One other key point about data is that, and I talked about this a little bit before, but really sharing out to leadership to create buy-in. Excuse me. We all know that right now, budget constraints across the world for technology and higher education is really, really hard to come by and to create buy-in. So this data is critical and key to show leadership the ROI on that specific investment for the technology. So data is so important, like I keep saying over and over again, and the outcomes help create cases for buy-in, showing students or even executive leadership what all the outcomes of the hard work that you're putting into the platform are. One example that I wanted to bring up is our partners at University of Wisconsin Eau Claire. Their numbers are actually stellar, and right now they're working towards creating buy-in so that they can secure funding to continue having this technology for future. They've embraced the utilization of the platform and pulling out the data. They've hosted last year. They've hosted over 5,000 events, had over 46,000 event registrations, and collected over 33,000 form responses. And that's really been an invaluable key point to enhancing not only their student engagement and campus life, but to showing their executive leadership why it's so important to continue having this technology and have these key data points. Even if these numbers weren't stellar, even if these numbers weren't something that they were really excited about, it could show us why it wasn't working, right? Why things aren't working and how we can make it better. It also helps take some of the hard work off of your shoulders by keeping all of the data in one simple place that you can continue to find it. And it also helps direct people to the right place so that they can see the data for themselves and see why. So, what specific departments or student organization leaders, what's not working and how can we fix it? I want to take a minute here to pause before we go into the next point. Is there anything, any even comments you want to put in the question box I can help read at this point? Anything that I can help answer or clarify? Give it just a minute and take a sip of water. Thank you for your question, Patrick. With so much information, when I saw the Denison Uni page, it was info overload for me. How do unis handle the fact that everyone today is so bombarded with information that they just get lost in it and perhaps even resign to reading or looking through things? That's a great question. Um, it's something that, we have to take into consideration when we are having these discussions about technology. Information overload is definitely so real and it's so important to combat. And I'll just go back to that slide really quick to make another key point here. So, for us at Ready Education, one thing we really pride ourselves on is the ability to customize. Each of these little blocks here have the ability to customize and give access to specific user types in the platform. So while you see all of this right now, as a student, you might only see what's applicable to you. And that's really something we strive to help our partners decide how to assist our partners in categorizing the students based on what access level they should have information to. So each of the blocks here has specific access rights that you would want to show to first year students or to students interested in specific academic tracks or students who live in one area or not. It's really important that we give that information to the students who are most likely to need it so that we have that ability to narrow down the scope of what they're seeing and what they're talking about. One other item that I can share here too is on the screen right now, you'll see that our platform separates out data by users, groups, and specific information. And each of those specific topics also has those key areas where we can narrow the scope of how we're doing this. So having that information is, well, two things. One, having the information available to students that need it is so key. And two, making sure we're not overwhelming them or bombarding them with information is also important. One other point I'll make before I get to the next question, Patrick, is the ability to send out those newsletters that I talked about is also something that we have to be aware of, that we're not overwhelming them with information that we continue to bombard them with and that they just kind of archive or send to unsubscribe to newsletters. One thing I work on as a client success manager with my partners is coming up with those strategic ways that we can continue to engage students without making them feel overwhelmed by information. So really, and I think the key here is that customization piece. Who are our students? How do we connect with them? And what information do they need is going to be really something that you can work with your partners on. What tool do you use to summarize the information related to the events, surveys, etc.? That's a great question, and one that I think that might, be better answered by the community that we're chatting through. The platform that we're using right now, is called CampusGroups, and it pulls in the data and allows us to kinda summarize it in this way, but we also have clients and partners that work with outside sources like Tableau or other things to help summarize the data that they have, depending on how folks want to digest it. Sometimes you'll find that no matter how many communications you share, students don't read the information set. How can you successfully face this situation? That is a great question. And if we had the right answer to that, I think we all would become millionaires, right? But for me, one of the best things about our tool is it allows us to see who opened it, when they opened it, and if they clicked on any specific items that was sent out from the platform. So for me, as an administrator, when I'm seeing or hearing from students, well, I never saw that, or I never got that, it's really helpful and useful to be able to pull up the information and say, well, you never opened it, or you did open it and you didn't read it through. So having that ability to say those click rates and open rates is really a nice way to kind of put the onus back on the students to have that information. But again, maybe email and communications, maybe that's just not the way students are going to be open to receiving information from you. Our product has a lot of other great tools that allow students to or administrators to kind of push the students to see that information, whether it's creating a homepage widget that allows them to kind of see it right when they log on to their platform. We have the ability to send push notifications to their phone or mobile device if they have the mobile app. Um, but it's something that I think is a lifelong question that we'll continue to try and find different ways to answer. And I'd love to hear what other folks have to say about best practices that they have. Perhaps maybe at the end of the session we can open that conversation for further discussion. Awesome. So we'll continue the presentation and thank you all for the wonderful questions. I'll be happy to answer more towards the end of the discussion. All right. So I also want to talk about in this conversation burnout. How can we as a higher education professional community combat burnout? And one way that I found successful with the folks that I work with is really being intentional about the processes and procedures that you own as a team or as an individual. I work with administrators every day and help them improve their processes. But when I do that, there are a lot of questions that I have or that they have that we have to answer to help reduce the workload and guide them through the process of streamlining their processes. As I walk through this, I want you to take a moment and think about maybe one thing that you all do or one process that you all do that is having some challenges. What is one process that you're really having a hard time kind of managing or keeping up with during your work? And I want to think through how these questions that might be able to help you. So what is the process or processes you're looking to streamline? Who are the current stakeholders of the outcome of that process? So who are the main people that are going to be impacted by the outcome? Who is the ultimate decision maker who has that veto power to say yes or no to what you're looking at for the outcome or the process? Are there any unintended impacts? So, what is something that might be directly or indirectly related to this process or procedure or outcome? And what details might you be missing from these conversations or pieces? These are all things that I continue to talk through with my client partners about as we're working to streamline processes. I think one really great example is a client that I work with went from an office of 3 to an office of 1 due to budgetary cuts, and they had to make really big changes to be able to not cause any disruption to student satisfaction, student engagement, and thinking through these questions allowed that admin to really think through what was necessary, what was maybe a little bit extra outside of the process that didn't need to be added, and who else needed to be involved in this process. So thinking through this allows you to bring in every person or every stage that you might need to be involved in, and it allows you to think through how to streamline the process without adding unnecessary steps or unnecessary input from folks who might not need to be involved. One way that our platform helps with this situation is it allows us to create some approval workflows to situations that might have other processes externally. So this image here allows you to see a simple event request approval. So how our partners begin to combat a little bit of their burnout is optimize, automate, and streamline administrative tasks and approval processes. So for example, let's say a student organization has to create an event and it needs to be approved by multiple offices on your campus. It needs to be approved by the catering department, by your IT department, by public safety, by conference services, by event management systems. Instead of going to each one of those places individually, bring them into the technology that you're utilizing and allow them to specifically approve the request that the student is making. This is a great way to streamline, but it does insinuate having these tough conversations with campus partners and breaking down old processes that they might be really attached to, maybe some Google Forms or some Teams processes that you might have to convince them or at least get them to try a new situation to allow them to streamline it. So those difficult conversations could be a roadblock, but what I found is by showing them how simple adding a approval process or workflow, it will allow you and those team members to work together, to use technology, and to facilitate that streamlining, that frictionless process, not only for the students, but for you as administrators as well. The goal here is to provide students with that seamless experience and to protect your time and energy. So I know this graphic on the screen goes a little bit quick, but if you'll see here that it allows each step to approve, and once it's done approving, the student then gets the notification that the event is approved and ready to go. Any questions about this slide in particular? We can continue to talk about it, and I'm happy to go back as needed. So I wanted to kind of wrap up the slides here with a couple more just to talk about how, as an administrator, we know that technology is at the forefront. And what you're seeing on the screen here are just some of the tools that Ready Education provides to our partners. But when you're doing this and when you're looking at these technologies and these tools, it's really important that you evaluate and select tools that specifically meet your campus's needs. The Not every tool is going to be something that fits your needs. So think through those road mapping questions. Think through how you responded to specific challenges that were happening on your campus. What are your key needs and how can technology help address those, drive process improvements, and increase student success? So you'll see on this screen right here, these are just some of the things that our platform is able to do for administrators. We improve student usage by centralizing systems, optimize efficiency, inspire groups and events participation. Um, One thing that we didn't get a chance to talk about today is nurturing strong sense of community with our community feeds and group chats and directories. So that's something that we really strive to do at Ready Education. We also enable club officers to manage their organization. So that takes a little bit off the administrator's plate, all while still having the access to keep an eye on things and make sure that things are being approved by correct processes. And then we also gain valuable insights by all the data that we're collecting on our platform. From the student side, our platforms can do a lot too, but I want to take a moment to call out why it's so important to bring students into the discussion. How do students define their success? What's important to them? These are all questions that we should be constantly asking our students so that we're making sure that the technologies that we leverage are useful to the students who are the main, people that we're looking to create buy-in for, especially those student leaders. So who are those student leaders who really are committed to helping boost that student engagement and be the leaders on campus? We see a ton of success and adoption at Ready Education when students are in the room making those decisions, and it's key to creating that success. For students, you want to create reliable and personalized experience just beyond just admin and course tasks. So what we offer students needs to be easily accessible and on demand, and engagement opportunities all need to live in one place. Those are all things that we know at Ready Education. So for students, this is something that we know that really speaks to them. We help them improve their time management. We provide enhanced convenience, keeping everything in one place, like their digital student ID. Ready Education helps with a directory of services like maps and dinings, keeping things in one place. We increase engagement with clubs and student life participation tools. We help foster that sense of belonging, which goes all the way back to the beginning of this presentation where we talk about how important it is for students to feel like they belong and feel committed to something. And then we help define student success with our co-curricular transcripts, service hours, and different gamification opportunities. These are all things that we didn't get a chance to talk about today, but we certainly would love to talk with you about it. If you wanted to reach out afterwards, I'm happy to connect with you on those things as well. So I know we went through a lot of information today, but I'd love to spend some time talking through what questions you all have, or even, I don't know if it's possible, allowing folks to maybe come off mic. I don't know if that's a possibility, but happy to take some time to answer questions here. I know it takes some time to do some typing, so I'll give you a minute. Happy to pop in questions about any topic about student engagement as well. It doesn't have to be things that we related to today. I'm happy to discuss things that you want to chat about as well. How effective has this Ready Education platform been outside the EU and USA? That's a great question, and thank you for bringing that up. We have a lot of clients across the world that utilize our products and platforms. Is there anything specifically that you're looking for in effectiveness, or anything in particular? But we do have a lot of specific institutions outside of the EU and the US that utilize our platforms. And we do have a suite of products, not just the ones that I showed you today, that are utilized outside of both countries. So happy to connect with you on specific effectiveness tools that you're looking for as well. Let's see. At our uni, students can attend online and live class, so some show up live, but most are online, and the dynamics that live class seems to disappear. Do you have experience that suggest it would be better to separate the two classes and leave online students to one class and live students to themselves? That's a great question. Um, I think for this question, it would certainly depend on the type of students that you're looking for, or looking to service. I think there are pros and cons to both having both inline and online class. I work from home, and I was just talking earlier that there are times where I wish to be in the office to have that interaction. Depending on the need, I think having those online versus in person options is really beneficial to all students. In my personal experience, I think having the ability to have it all in one place allows students to create more interaction, even if they have the option to go online. It's not siloing those online versus in-person students. It's creating one key place, but allowing students to have the choice for others. I'm sure that there are benefits to both options, but I I would in my experience, I would appreciate having the option to do both, but not being siloed from one group to another. But certainly it would depend on how your students feel and interact. Some of my students do not speak English. Can I use this platform for multiple languages? That is a great question. There are specific road mapping of there are specific roadmap opportunities from Ready Education that are looking to enhance our language across multiple languages. I would have to check into what specific languages you're looking for to answer that question better. But my contact information and contact information of my team will be sent out, I assume, with these slides as well. Okay, I'm getting head nods. So please feel free to reach out to me with specific requests, and I'm happy to answer that or share with our product team to answer more. My institution is small, less than 1,000 students. Is there an open software that can be adaptable to our needs? Certainly. So I work with a lot of schools from a range of enrollment numbers. I have schools that are specific to, like I showed earlier, just the College of Pharmacy has a platform, not the entire USC campus and institution. So we certainly work with all numbers of students. And software can be adapted to the amount of students, no matter how small or how large. So Anna, I'd love to chat with you further about your current needs and what they are. And no matter how big or small your campus is or your institution is, I think the software would be beneficial to all. It's 9:30 where I am, so I'm drinking my iced coffee still, so, you'll have to excuse me. I will happily stay until, the 3 o'clock hour, so please feel free to continue asking questions and stay, but I want to be sure to respect everyone's time, so if you don't have any questions, please feel free, to, head out or connect with me at a later date. I'd be happy to connect with you and answer more questions, specifically to your institution and university, but like I said, I'm happy to stay till the 3 o'clock hour if you have continually asked questions. And I'm happy to stay on and chat with you all. Was there anything else you wanted to wrap up on, just from Amba's side?
No, I think that was great. Thank you so much, and thank you all for joining us and for your brilliant questions and interactions. It was a fantastic session. Thank you, and I'm also happy to stay on for a bit longer. It looks like a few people are starting to leave. Oh, there's a question. You got to thank you. Got to thank you for the fantastic webinar.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. Happy to speak with you all. Thank you all.
Yeah, so perhaps if we give it a few more minutes and if no one has any questions, we can wrap up there. As I said, if you missed anything, don't worry, we'll share the recording and the slides in kind of the post-event comms and also on the Amber and BGA websites within a week or so. So yeah, we'll give it a couple more minutes. I think perhaps we wrap it up there, Maria.
Sure. Yeah, that sounds good to me.
Fantastic. Well, as I said, thank you all so much for joining us. Thank you so much, Maria, and our partner, Ready Education, for such fascinating insights. Thank you once again, and goodbye.
Hi, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.